Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poll Review. I am Bill, the company's expert, and this is the live stream where we review the polls. Every day, I put out a poll on my YouTube channel, and you guys vote on it, and we review it. And the reason I put out these polls is because it's all part of the whole careers and how to get a job thing, and entrepreneurship thing, technically, where I feel that people need to think about these topics more. And by thinking about this, you might get a revelation and realize something about how to do a job interview or how to write a resume or how to further your career in some other way. So let's go to the polls. Here we go. Okay, so yesterday I put out this gem. The best thing for me to learn is, and there were some options. 1, diplomacy or conflict resolution skills. 2, collaboration skills. 3, the true challenges of every type of job. 4, a full awareness of the options available to me. And 5, how to be likable by different types of people. And you guys can see the votes here. The winner was diplomacy or conflict resolution skills. Now, I didn't have one clear actual right answer in mind for this. So that's about as good as any. But I would think that this number 4 here was a big deal, a full awareness of the options available to me. I would have loved to have that when I was younger. But I kind of agree that this one, and this one are all extremely useful. I mean, these are 2, but if you had to pick one, you could only pick one answer, it would be those. So hopefully that makes sense. But once again, the reason I put this out is because I want people to think about this. What should you be learning? Okay, what should you be working on and trying to reverse engineer and figure out at this point in your life? Okay, 2 days ago I put out this. Recruiters enjoy. Now this was a joke one, okay, a joke one, people. Every Saturday I do a fun one of these. So recruiters enjoy A, the wise-ass candidate who calls them out on their nonsense. B, the ghost candidate who doesn't show but later claims they did. C, candidates who don't want the job but are just trolling them. And D, the exploding tie shtick. I got a few comments about this. And can I go to this? I guess I can go to this for fun. Let's just see some of the comments on this one that you guys were saying. Let's see, here we go. You gotta love my extremely slow browser here. I like these troll polls. I'm not trying to troll anybody. It's called humor. It's called humor. You got to spice it up. People like the exploding tie thing. I was saying, wahaha, it is guaranteed to spice up board meetings. You're sitting around a table, somebody's tie just goes off like a grenade. I mean, that would do it for me. Anyway. So the winner was number 1, the wise-ass candidate who calls them out on their nonsense. That was the least funny of the 4, in my opinion, but that's just me. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, 3 days ago, I put out this. True or false? Executive pay sets the upper limit for the pay range of every subordinate position. And true or false? The winner was true, and this is true. It is true. However, some people pointed out correctly in the comments that essentially it's not the same thing, because if you're at a worker level or a mid-manager level, you have different components to your compensation at different levels, and executives have different components that are not available at lower levels. So it's not quite the same thing. In fact, when you get to the executive level, especially for like really big companies, the base pay component is usually the smallest of their components. You'll have stock, you'll have stock options, you'll have perks, you'll have all kinds of other bonus things, bonuses for the entire company, bonuses for personal performance, and so on. So those each of them tends to be larger than the base pay component. And that's why you hear in the news, incidentally, you hear about, executives of like Fortune 500 companies that, they make hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but rarely do we ever see a base salary go over $1 million, right? I mean, this doesn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to most of you guys, but that I'm just saying The base salary usually is kept under $1 million, even for like the highest paid executives in the world. And where they really make their money is on the other components, especially stock and stock options, right? So anyway, but it is true, this is technically true, that for base pay at the executive level, the lower limit, that sets the upper limit for all the levels of, managers and workers that go below them. So that has been used as an argument for justifying exorbitant executive pay, which I don't agree with necessarily, especially in large corporations. But it is technically true, even though it's not the whole story. Okay, 4 days ago, I put out this. In my career, I want to manage what? People, projects, assets, money, or I don't want to manage anything. And surprisingly, that was not the winner. Most people, 37%, voted for projects. So that tends to convince me there's a lot of introverts out there. Hopefully everybody knows what all these are. You're managing people. That means, you're in charge of subordinates. Projects, hopefully everybody knows what projects are. It's a thing that has a definite beginning and end, like some kind of improvement or upgrade. It is not just running day-to-day operations, right? A project is separate. Project is something that, it's a one-time only thing. It's not just business as usual. Assets, hopefully people know what those are. In the form we usually see, it'll be like physical assets, like property, plant, and equipment, like buildings. If you're in charge of, a building or a facility or like an installation, basically, that's land that has buildings and fixed things on it, whether it's industrial equipment or residences or anything like that. Those are what assets are. You could also have intangible assets, things that you can't touch. So intellectual property, patents, things like that. Or there's other forms of assets, including like cash and stuff like that. But I put money as a separate option here. Okay, so if you want to be a financial manager or someone like that, or investment manager, you are going to have all kinds of different forms of money, essentially, to the layman. They usually call them assets, but they're basically just money in some way, shape, or form. If you don't know, the word capital means wealth, right? The idea is that if you own a house or something, that's an asset, okay? It's capital, which means wealth. You can convert that into cash by selling the house. And then you could convert the cash into an asset by buying another house or something, right? So wealth is something that sort of transcends the form it's in, right? That's why they call it capital, because it means it could be in any form. It could be in a bank account, or it could be a physical thing that you can touch that's huge, right? Like a house or a building. And I don't want to manage anything. Yeah. And you know what? I don't blame you, because not everybody's cut out for it, and it can be a big headache depending on your situation. You got to do what's right for you. Here's an ad that I did. 5 days ago, I put out this. True or false? People treat me more favorably when I wear more conservative clothes. Now, this was similar to a poll I put out a couple of weeks ago. That was something to the effect of people treat me differently based on how I dress and my grooming. Okay, so that was like a totally different thing. Whether people treat you differently based on your attire, your clothing, and your grooming. Now, the winner of that poll was a profound yes. Okay, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's just the way it goes. When we dress differently, we get different treatment. This is a thing. You can do a social experiment and prove this, right? But in this poll, I've gone a step further. Okay, I'm asking not if they treat you differently, but I'm talking about specifically if you wear more conservative clothes. Now, I got a couple of people in the comments saying, well, what does conservative mean? It's like, well, conservative means traditional, formal, not radical new, not modern, and not risque in any way, right? And not casual, right? Sort of more formal, more traditional, more professional. That's what conservative means. So specifically, when you wear those types of clothes, not everybody wears those types of clothes. You know, even if you have like a professional job, you might show up to work every day and, you know, a Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt and a pina colada in your hand, you know, straw hat, you know, bead necklace. I don't know. You know, people have professional jobs where they show up like that at the low level and at the high level. So if you put that aside and dress up like you work at a bank, do people treat you different? That's the question. And if they do, and if you've recognized this, what does it mean? That's the question I think everyone should ask themselves. So therefore, if you want a certain type of treatment, you dress like that. Okay, 6 days ago, I put out this. When a recruiter asks a question, it usually, A, is code for an entirely different question. B, it's so general as to be useless. C, is insulting to think it can be an indicator of your suitability. And D, is very revealing in ways above the awareness of most candidates. Now, the winner was A. When a recruiter asks a question, it usually is code for an entirely different question. I definitely agree with this. Okay, I find that modern job interviews, and they have been this way for quite a while, are kind of this song and dance, this ritualistic sort of word code that A, we've proven is quite ineffective. Management scientists have proven it's very, very ineffective. And B, it also favors people that are trained in how to do an interview as opposed to how to do a job. And because of this, job interviews, at least job interviews done by most recruiters, especially at lower levels, are quite a poor indicator of who you're getting. You know, they really are. And I say this because I've also taught this in university. I've been in charge of teaching, you know, recruiters in HR programs and in business programs in university. So I understand, you know, why they do it a certain way, and it is evolving slowly, but it's still very bad. And the proof is in the evidence for this also, if you don't just take my word for this, is that when you do executive interviews, they usually have quite a different format. Okay, it's a different dynamic, different questions, different goals, different vibe, different everything. Okay, their goal there is to really actually try and get to know you more. They don't ask cliched questions nearly as much. And they don't play these word games that you get in interviews at lower levels. Like my favorite, for example, is when people say, tell me about yourself. And then you say, okay. And then you start talking about yourself and they say, no, that's wrong. I wanted to hear about your interests. And you said, well, the obvious reaction a lot of people would have is, well, why didn't you ask me about my interests if you want to hear about my interests? You know, it's stupid. Well, you didn't ask me about my interests. You said, tell me about yourself. You know, and I technically answered the question. If you had a more specific thing in mind, you should be specific, right? Especially with young people that are like 18 to 20 years old in that area. You know, they're not going to pick up on this stuff unless they've had formal training. And if you can pass the question with formal training, doesn't that defeat the purpose? It does, by the way. Anyway, I was worried that so many people voted for this. When a recruiter asks a question, it usually is very revealing in ways above the awareness of most candidates. I think this is what a lot of lower level recruiters think. Now, whether that's true varies. Depends on the candidate. But, you know, unless this is your first job interview of your life, I would say this is less true than a lot of people seem to think it is. Anyway, last one, ladies and gentlemen. 7 days ago, 1 week ago, I put out this. True or false? One can always predict all job interview questions with enough preparation. And the winner was false. And I tend to agree. I don't think you can predict every job interview question. You get some weird questions. Weird questions being asked by weird people out there that, you know, are a really terrible indicator of whether someone is suitable for a job or not. But people ask them anyway. Sometimes it can be a strategic thing. They'll just ask you something totally off the wall just to throw you off or to break up the meeting, break up the exchange. So there's all kinds of stuff. And I agree that you can't predict everything. You can predict most of the things they're going to be asking, but not everything. So there you go. That's my edition of Poll Review for this week. There's 18 of you guys here. Thank you for being here. I apologize for the sound problems that I have. I was saying it early this morning. I sat down at my PC to do my first live stream in the morning, which is Side Hustle Ideas, which I do first thing Monday morning. And I imagine my software, whether it's the operating system or my live stream encoder, which is Streamlabs, it updated itself. And so all of a sudden my audio levels were completely out to whack and my sound was really bad. And I didn't make any changes to my configuration. It just changed on me. We all got to love that. And so I had something like 5 minutes to try and attempt to fix it. And I never really succeeded. I kind of turned the volume down a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to now see if I can fix that properly. And I will see you guys next week for another edition, same time, of Poll Review. Thanks and take care. You guys are awesome.